Today, we are on the topic of real-time data for becoming an agile business. Real-time data can supercharge your decision-making, but here's the catch. Not every piece of data needs to be available instantly. Today, we're going to explore how to identify the data that matters, deliver it effectively, and then leverage tools to stay agile without overloading your systems. All right, we're diving into the world of real-time data. We're going to try to figure out how do we balance real-time versus periodic data, determine what data matters most, and we're going to look at a few tools that may support some of that. So diving in, we need to recognize that not all data needs to be delivered real-time. Yes, we're well aware that real-time data does have immense value, but also that comes at a cost, both from an infrastructure and data gathering and processing standpoint, but also hosting, feeding, API pinging demands that are required to deliver that data. So there are real monetary costs that come with that, but also costs of maintenance, cost of infrastructure oversight and manipulation as you set up these real-time delivery mechanisms. So when we look at how we try to understand whether or not we need real-time data, we need to understand what type of decision-making is coming from that data and at what frequencies are those happening. So A, identifying data that needs to be real time, and then B, if it doesn't, you probably need to consider how and where you should aggregate that data to review it if it doesn't require that instant update. Maybe that's like a monthly financial report. You don't need a monthly financial report every single day of the month, but you want that monthly financial report delivered pretty close to the end of that month, or else it becomes kind of dated and it doesn't become useful for you and your organization. So an example of this could be a retail business. A retail business may need real-time inventory updates for products that are moving pretty quickly. They've got a really quick sell through. They need to understand what they're capable of selling, particularly if they're omni-channel. So if they've got sales that are happening on Amazon, sales that are happening through their website, they need to very intentionally know what's happening with their inventory to inform their customers whether or not they'll be able to ship a product out in a world where everybody expects 2-day shipping now. And so we can't rely on weekly summaries for those fast-moving inventories that are selling on a day-to-day basis. Now, for more slower-moving goods, you may be able to rely on a weekly summary because there's not that much volatility in the inventory that really doesn't have the type of turn that some of your hero products may have. There is a place for both types of reporting in the same context, though. You want real time for quick moving products, and slower time may be okay for the slower moving products. So how do you take that data and structure the output in a way that allows you to have the best insight? Because if you're getting real-time delivery of data on slow-moving goods, you're not going to do much with it. There's not going to be a lot of action that comes out of that. So this is a good example of how you should look at this to understand, let's aggregate and review the data of the slower-moving inventory, and then let's identify the products that we need real-time data on. And if you have an infrastructure that's capable of supporting both delivery mechanisms, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. But not all data needs to be real time. Ultimately, you just need to focus on the value here. You need to invest in the real-time data where it impacts agility or revenue output. You do not need to invest in the areas where you don't need that on a real-time basis. Now, the second part of this is real-time data is only useful if it's delivered to the right people at the right time. So you need to understand who is the key decision maker and what are their data requirements in order to set this up in a way that makes sense to folks that are in decision-making seats. When you map this out and you get key understandings of what types of decisions they're making, what types of data is required to inform their actions, then you can get to the value equation much more quickly. So this is really a discovery process amongst your team to understand what are the key requirements. And this is not a super quick exercise at times. It takes very intentional thought to take a look at how your business operates, who's in the right seat, what type of data they need, and then what type of actions do they typically take when they don't have the type of data. And then if they were to have real-time data, how would it change the type of decisions that they are making after the fact? Ultimately, we need to get to a point where we can devise methods to get them that data effectively. So when you think about sales teams and upsell efficacy, Real-time customer purchase data will really help the sales teams understand what's happening with the customers that they are talking to in order to then potentially upsell or cross-sell. However, a marketing team may be more capable of working with an aggregated campaign performance on a weekly basis that allows them to adjust their A/B testing and adjust their campaigns moving forward. So sales team, real-time data, customer purchase data, upsell, real-time conversations with the customers, marketing team, higher level, they're looking at a long-term view on how campaigns are performing. Now, of course, that's different for every business, but ultimately, if you're able to conduct interviews with your teams to understand their specific data needs and timelines, you're setting yourself up for success. Now, once we have that rhythm, those conversations, that discovery process completed with your team, we need to understand what the optimized delivery channels are. So it's not just about having the data, it's about delivering it in a way that's accessible and actionable for the team. So there could be a variety of ways that you deliver data to your team to help them make decisions. Maybe they subscribe to some type of a report that happens on a specific interval. Maybe it's daily, maybe it's hourly, maybe it's every 30 minutes, 10 minutes. Maybe it's an aggregated report or dashboard that they frequently check to understand the performance and activity in their department. And then maybe you get to the point where it's a push notification to their cell phone to say, hey, this needs action immediately. You've got this near real time interface with what's happening in the business to make those decisions. So there are a variety of modalities in which you can understand how to deliver data to your key stakeholders. But ultimately, you need to understand the effectiveness of the delivery channels. Is accessing a report on desktop through a web application sufficient? Or do team members need that mobile notification for better agility? What mechanism, what way in which information is delivered makes the most sense? If you look at an example like Amazon, their supply chain, all of their warehouses, their supply chain and warehouse managers, I suspect, have real-time notifications on maybe tablets or mobile devices when inventory movements are occurring to help them understand how to manage the warehouse. Now, I suspect at Amazon scale, majority of that is done via intense data analysis that's being fed to machines, is being fed then to the manager that has a predetermined outcome of what needs to happen versus the supply chain manager or warehouse manager having to make a decision based on the data. Now that is a kind of a North Star of where most warehousing or supply chain heavy, inventory heavy businesses want to get, right? Amazon's delivering millions and millions of packages per day at scale without major interruption to the customer. Now, if you can achieve some minimal degree of that as a small business, you're setting yourself up for success because the current expectation of customers is driven by some of the largest companies in our ecosystem, like Amazon. So when you're going back to your team and you're having these discovery conversations, ask the question, what's the best delivery mechanism to ensure that it aligns with their preferences and operational needs? When you ask the question, you may want to provide some examples just to get that creative flow coming within your team, because they might not exactly have the foresight to understand how could I actually ingest this data? What's a better way to do it? Because they may just be used to what they've been doing in the past. So always helpful to provide some examples on what's possible. And when you're able to paint the picture of the art of the possible, you now start to create a different perspective on how to accomplish a job more effectively. I mentioned near real-time data. When you think about near real-time data, it's something like Tableau's pulse metrics, right? They offer near real-time data delivery and can really enhance the data decision-making with AI-driven insights piled on top of that. So key features of tools like this, whether it's Tableau or Domo or Klipfolio, is push notifications for critical data. Maybe it's AI-driven actions that layer on top of the near real-time data. Maybe AI is recommending next best action based on the patterns in the data, like I mentioned with the Amazon example. And then they could also support multi-channel delivery, like I mentioned with desktop, mobile, email notifications, the list can go on. Maybe you want them to send an Instagram message to your employees who are spending too much time on Instagram. I don't know. But ultimately, when a logistics company is using a tool like Tableau Pulse to monitor delivery delays, to automatically generate recommendations to reroute shipments, ultimately that's saving time. It's saving operational time of your team, reducing costs of these redundant issues and mistakes that can come up in a business that ultimately lead to better customer satisfaction and hopefully a higher lifetime value of their customers. When we're able to start understanding the needs of your team and leveraging tools for near real-time data, just start with one department. Pilot a real-time tool, measure the impact, because we don't want to roll out a new solution across the entire business without testing it with one small slice to understand what are the issues that we're running into when we're setting this up. How is this really driving success and action from the key stakeholders that are managing departments, that are managing mission-critical operations to the business. So when you can pilot that with one small segment of your business, test the efficacy, and then roll it out, you're going to be far more successful with that rollout of real-time data. All of this is really just a balance of cost and agility. Real-time data capabilities are resource intensive. So you really need to prioritize the investments that you're making on how data is being delivered to your team. So key questions to ask yourself is, what's the actual cost of implementing a real-time data system? This may be the cost of data cleansing, data aggregation, warehousing. It could be table mapping across the data in your different departments. And so understanding what are the resources required for that? What are the cost of those resources? What additional tools do we need in order to deliver this information effectively? Doing a quick analysis on that will be helpful to understand what's the ROI that we can expect out of this investment. And then, does the value of the real-time insight justify the investment? So when you talk about ROI, you can quickly quantify the outcome based on that initial pilot that you're doing. The pilot's going to be far less cost intensive, but you can start to get some insight as to how is this improving the efficiency of my team? How is this improving our customer satisfaction? How is this moving the needle on our NPS scoring? Things like that will really help you look at the value that you're driving from that decision making. So if a small retail store decides to invest in a point of sale inventory tracking system, but they continue to use weekly sales reports, is that an environment where a weekly sales report is better than a monthly report, but it's not nearly as effective for the high velocity inventory items? How are they changing and modifying their broader business planning to accommodate for what they're capable of doing with this new point of sale system? Again, rolling that out on maybe a one location basis to start and then at a larger scale will certainly help you to understand how to prioritize this type of investment. When you walk through a cost benefit analysis to determine what real-time capabilities will deliver the most value to your business, you are setting yourself up for success just from a fiscally responsible perspective, but also telling and informing your team on how you're making investments to improve outcomes for them. Not all data needs to be real time. You need to prioritize what matters most to deliver data to the right people through the right channels to enable that agile decision making that is required in today's modern business. When you're able to find tools like Tableau Pulse Metrics or Klipfolio to support some of that real-time or near real-time data delivery effectively, you're going to start to see benefits to your business that you probably didn't plan for coming into this year. I hope that's a helpful overview of how you should start thinking about real-time data. I would encourage you to start taking a look at your current data delivery process, start identifying areas where you can implement real-time solutions, and then identify the areas that they can have the biggest impact to your business. Because ultimately that will enable you to have speed, it will enable you to have better velocity, and then ultimately a bigger impact to your business as a whole in order to improve your profitability, improve your margins, and create a more sustainable business in the long run. Thanks for tuning into Data Fuel. We hope today's insights help fuel your SMB's growth. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review the podcast so we can keep bringing you more data-driven strategies. Till next time, keep fueling your business with data.